Hey, this is Ron Thomas, and you're watching The Barn.
Hi, and welcome to the Barn, live from the Barn studio. You got the Mox here, and I'm joined online right now with a special guest, Sensei Ron Thomas, actor, martial artist, author, speaker, a little bit of everything. Ron, how are you today?
I'm doing well, man. Happy New Year.
Yeah, happy New Year to you. And we do turn the calendar to 2025, and know that 2024 was a busy year for you. What's your 2025 look like?
Uh, who knows, man? With everything that I'm doing, it's a little bit crazy. Self-promotion as a speaker and an actor, and all the things that I do. So right now, I'm promoting my new book, The Hidden Life Lessons of Mr. Miyagi, and looking to get on a few stages and start talking about building some speeches around the book and around what I'm now terming the mental martial arts, winning the battles within.
Absolutely. And I love the title, and I love the concept of the book. And, I think, I was born in 1981. So the original Karate Kid is right in my wheelhouse. I had the Danielson bandana and played Karate Kid all throughout my house. Some of my family's actually in the studio here. You can't see them; they're off camera, and they're nodding their heads right now. So
Nice, nice.
and I love it. And we talk about Mr. Miyagi. He was such an iconic character with so much wisdom and so much depth in the writing of that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, Pat Morita was a good friend of mine. I have some good stories about him. We called him Uncle Pat, but he was a comedian, but initially on Happy Days and everything, but what a brilliant performance by Pat Morita, the subtleties and of Mr. Miyagi. I cannot imagine another actor embodying the character Mr. Miyagi the way he did. It was just, stunning performance, magical, really.
I often talk about, the difference between intellect and wisdom, right? And I think sometimes wisdom can get you a little bit further than intellect, right? Uh,
Yeah,
and when I think about his character and some of those lessons that applied to martial arts, obviously, but also life lessons of patience and all those things. And I know the book sort of incorporates some of those messages as well.
absolutely. Yeah, the book is The Hidden Life Lessons of Mr. Miyagi, meaning I had to sit down and think. It was a really challenging book for me to write because I'm a life coach and an actor and everything, but also very involved in personal development since I was an athlete, in my younger years. So I understand the power of mindset. But I wanted to sit down and write a book that, with the lifelong legacy of the Karate Kid, and me being a part of that journey, and me also being involved in personal development, and a martial artist, a real life sensei, and all of those things that those entail. I wanted to write a book that sort of encompasses me, my brand, and who I am and what I'm about. But with this particular book, I had to start with the on-screen teachings of Mr. Miyagi, right? That was kind of the concept. What are the on-screen teachings of Mr. Miyagi? What is he teaching Daniel? And what's underneath that? What's really there for the audience that we didn't see on screen, but if we dive into it, we can use in our personal lives. And so that was kind of the baseline. I had to start with a baseline of, okay, Mr. Miyagi's teaching Daniel about balance, right? And then, well, okay, how can we incorporate balance into our chaotic, crazy lives, in the times that we're living in? So it was a challenge. It was a lot of fun to write, but the baseline always started with each chapter is really a standalone chapter. It doesn't progress. You could pick up the book, open it to chapter 7, and that chapter is a standalone lesson that started. It had its starting point with some on-screen teaching from Miyagi. And so I just kind of dive deeper into those teachings.
Yeah, and I think one of the chapters is being in service to others, right?
Yeah, that's
And
the first one. Yeah.
talking about true altruism, where you're doing something not for the benefit of you, for actually trying to help or assist somebody else, but
Yeah.
actually getting some of that benefit back from doing good. And I'm living proof of that. I'm actually a therapist. I mentioned that off camera.
Yeah.
and I do a lot of grief counseling. Well, I've had some personal experiences with loss in my life, so
Whew.
I get to try to help people in that regard. But it also heals me in a lot of ways. And some of the podcast stuff that we do, we talk about mental health a lot, so it's just as much healing as it is for us and for me as it is for anybody else.
Yeah, I love what you just said. I often say that I've had more loss in my life than most people have had conversations. um, and as a life coach, and probably you as a therapist, it's the one topic that's a challenging topic to deal with. And what's the answer for people? And loss is it depends on what kind of loss we're talking about. But if we're talking about the loss of a loved one, that's personal each and every time, and it's different. Although it's similar, it's different. And so that's a challenging topic to sort of guide people through, if you even can. If you just got to kind of be there and let them process it. But back to the book, the first chapter is all about service and a master. The book is about life mastery, self mastery, and Miyagi was, of course, a master. He wasn't just a karate master; he was a true life master. And he taught, as you indicated, the difference between intellect and wisdom. He gave Daniel lots of wisdom and service to others. A true master wouldn't pass up that opportunity because, as I mentioned in the book, both the one being served and the one doing the serving reap the rewards. There's mutual benefit, they're not mutually exclusive. So lots of people are searching for meaning and purpose in life. And one of the very first places those people ought to go, we all ought to go, is serving others, because your purpose is bigger than you. It's outside your little world. And you'll find your purpose in helping and serving others.
I've heard in some interviews where you follow Tony Robbins and some of these motivational speakers that have been doing it for decades. And I do as well. Some of my personal favorites are Eric Thomas, Inky Johnson. One of my ultimate heroes is Dr. Wayne Dyer,
Oh, yeah.
who was doing it since the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
How have some of the teachings of those people, how have they helped you?
I think they all just sort of reinforce things that I've already thought about or known or heard. And the more you hear them, and the more you hear them from different perspectives, like more of a spiritual perspective from Dr. Wayne Dyer, maybe more of a practical, psychological perspective from Tony Robbins, although he dives into the spiritual realm as well. It just sort of just kind of reinforces a lot of the things that I've been taught or told or shown in my life. My own sensei was deeply involved in spirituality and metaphysics, and the way we think and the way we feel and how we behave creates our reality. And he would often talk at the end of a martial arts class, and he'd start talking on some topic about, think about what you want, not about what you don't want, as an example. And he would start there, and he would start talking for an additional 40, 45 minutes after class was already over. And for me, who I kind of just soaked that stuff up like a sponge because nobody had ever talked to me that way or shown me those things, I loved when he would start talking about those kinds of topics. So these people that you're mentioning and these books, these self-help books, they all, not every self-help, personal development, life coach, therapist is going to be right for every single person. But some of these people you're mentioning really resonate with me. And so the ones that do, I kind of follow their teachings, even still, like to this day, obviously.
Well, really what you're kind of talking about when we talk about manifesting, making something happen, is part of what you're certified is neurolinguistic programming, NLP, right? And it's basically kind of habit forming, connecting the brain to the body, to the language, and making things happen. Tell us about, NLP, and if somebody's just tuning in and they're not familiar with it, maybe give us a little bit of background on it.
Yeah, neurolinguistic programming, in fact, is Tony Robbins' background. That's where he got his start in neurolinguistic programming, and it's a big sort of ball of stuff to encompass, especially on one podcast. And it's funny that neurolinguistic programming is actually, I think, more popular in Europe than it is in the United States. A lot of people, you mentioned NLP, and lots of people don't understand what you're talking about. And there are different components to NLP. One would be like the psychology of success and the way our brain sort of operates, and the way we hardwire our neural pathways, and we do that through visioning and or traumatic events. That's a good example. Let me throw that one at you because you're a therapist. So a traumatic event happens to us, and there's this thing called PTSD, right? Post-traumatic stress syndrome. And in NLP terms, what happens when that event occurred is a certain neural pathway fires off, and it gets what NLP would call burned into your neurology. And it affects your sympathetic, your parasympathetic nervous systems, all of those things. And when they light up, or when something similar, let's say, lights that same neural pathway up, it shoots the chemicals through that same neural pathway, you experience the same sort of anxieties and stresses that you did when you originally had the event. Now, if you use NLP as a therapeutic intervention, then there are things that I've seen some miracles really take place in NLP, where you can use the way you have certain associations to a visualization of that event, and you can rewire a neural pathway, or cause your neurology to go completely flat on the original event. And so the person who's had post-traumatic stress for a long, long time, if they go through an intervention with NLP, I've seen it, and not always, of course, but I've seen it where the neurology goes flat. So you can have something similar that would normally trigger your PTSD happen. The one thing that comes to mind is like people who've experienced war, and then every time a helicopter flies over, they hear those same sort of sounds, and it fires off that same thing in your nervous system. I've seen NLP interventions take place where the nervous system sort of goes flat, and you kind of it doesn't know what to do with it. Like your unconscious mind just doesn't know what to do with it anymore. So it doesn't erase the memory, but it's kind of like, well, it kind of goes flat or neutral on the event. So NLP is really cool. You can, again, use it as a therapeutic model. You can use it as a model for success. There's all kinds of sort of techniques, and it's just basically the way we our linguistics and how we word things and the way we say things matter, right? Syntax matters, all of these things. So it's a big, it's a really big topic to sort of tackle on a podcast for sure. But
sure, I know that's a big ask.
Yeah.
Sum it up real quickly. Yeah.
But it's real. But I found it very, very powerful. Like I said, Tony Robbins, that is his background. That's his whole foundation is neurolinguistics, and he, of course, branched off into psychology. There's a hypnosis part of that, hypnotherapy, that is also, I found very, very powerful. So it's a cool topic, and I'm glad that I've gotten a master's certification in it, and I can sort of incorporate it to some of the things that I do today.
And anybody not into psychology just totally zoned out there.
Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah.
And like I mentioned, some of my family is in the room right now. My sister Sonia, my nephew Jax, and they would literally beat me up if I didn't ask some Karate Kid and some Cobra Kai questions.
Of course.
I mentioned being a kid of the '80s, and Karate Kid, you guys filmed that in 1983. It's a generational film, and it's now spawned another series. What does that mean to you, being a part of something that's so iconic?
It's been a blessing, obviously. It's put a sort of an exclamation point on some of the things, not all the things, but some of the things that I set out to do when I moved to Los Angeles to become an actor. I was an actor since I was a kid, and landing that role and being a part of that legacy with the people that have been involved in that thing, from the producer Jerry Weintraub to our director John Avildsen, who's directed Rocky and won an Academy Award. A lot of people forget about that. To our writer Robert Mark Kamen. These people are world class in the entertainment industry, and just being involved with those people and being a part of the legacy, and then have it 30, 40 years later with this series Cobra Kai on streaming video that we knew nothing about back then.
Right.
It's kind of miraculous in a lot of ways. So yeah, it's surreal. It's kind of hard to explain. Sometimes I just sort of forget about it. I don't really talk about it. I'm just, but then again, with Cobra Kai, how can you not, right? Cobra Kai was so successful because it had this global fan base already built in. And that was part of the genius of the creators of Cobra Kai, is tapping into something that was already there and generational, like it never went away. Because a lot of people have told me Karate Kid changed their lives. Lots of people say that. But then what really changed their lives? What really changed their lives is most of them got involved in the martial arts and training in the martial arts and gaining the confidence and the self-esteem and the focus and the discipline of the martial arts. That's what changed their lives. Again, right back to personal development, right? Anyway, being a part of it has been all of those things: surreal, magical, a blessing, and sometimes even a curse.
You mentioned martial arts, and you were one of the few, if not only, guys that were in the film that actually had a martial arts background. A lot of people don't know that you were already a black belt
Right.
before you even got the role. Do you think that helped with the auditioning or however that was? Do you think that helped you get the role?
Well, so the funny thing is, and I've told this story many times, is that my agents told me I have an audition for this little film called The Karate Kid, but don't mention that you're a black belt. And I'm like, why? First of all, it's a stupid title for a movie, The Karate Kid. What do you? Okay, but I'm going to go on it. What else am I doing? I'm not working right now. So I go on the thing, but they say don't mention martial arts because they're going to have this guy named Pat Johnson. He works with Chuck Norris. He's a legend in the martial arts. He's going to train you guys anyway. What they want to see is your acting. They want you to talk about your acting and your background because you got John Avildsen in there who is, directed Rocky, and they're looking for people who can act. So don't mention it. So I didn't mention it. And then I got the role, and then we're training, and it was about 6 weeks maybe into rehearsals. We hadn't even started filming yet. And Pat Johnson comes up to me because we trained in karate every day. And he says, you know some stuff, don't you? You've had some training before. And I said, yeah. And then I told him my story, because the deal is, a black belt moves differently than a white belt. They posture their body differently. And the guys that Pat was training and the other actors, they weren't martial artists. So they didn't move quite like I had the training. So, Pat Johnson called me out on it, but that's the story. 6 weeks later, 6 weeks into it, I had to spill the beans, let everybody know I was a black belt. But I wasn't a black belt in karate. I was a black belt in Japanese jiu-jitsu. So
your role as Bobby in the original, and even now, you're the good Cobra Kai guy, right? Especially in the original. What did that mean to you? Because, I feel like there's some empathy there from maybe the viewer or the watcher to say, oh, he's a part of the bad team, but he wants to do right.
Yeah. Yeah. And that Bobby kind of tracks with me, who I am. I'm a fighter. I've got that fighting instinct in me, but I also hate hurting people. I really do. I don't like to hurt people. Unless I have to. But Bobby sort of tracks with me. And even today, as being a pastor, on Cobra Kai, he's not, I love the fact that this pastor, he's still trying to do good in the world and guide people in the right direction. But then he's not afraid to get into a bar fight with his buddies and have a few beers, so
been there.
Or sweep his best friend in church when he comes in and he crosses the line. He's a little drunk in church. So, but that's the cool thing about the character Bobby. He kind of has his own fan base because of the fact that he was mixed in with the wrong crowd. He was mixed in with the bad guys. But he knew when to draw the line. He knew when to stand up. He had integrity and he had courage. And he would stand up even to not only to Johnny, but actually to even Kreese, especially in part 2, where the Karate Kid 2, where you see us in the beginning of the movie. and Kreese is going crazy, and he starts choking Johnny, and then Bobby tries to step in, takes a shot from Kreese. But there's a deleted scene that I think it's on YouTube now. People can find it, where after Bobby hurts Daniel-san on the floor, kicks him in the leg, he takes his belt off, walks across the floor, and drops it at Kreese's feet, and walks out of the tournament. And they did not use that scene, but you can see it on YouTube, I believe. And that scene right there says all you need to know about Bobby. And so playing that role and having that distinction from the rest of the crowd is an honor for me, really.
I know we're talking a long time ago when this was filmed, but what do you remember about filming some of those scenes? Because Bobby's in some memorable scenes. Obviously, the soccer scene, the Halloween dance, and the aftermath of that, and then the championship.
Yeah. I remember a lot, and it's almost, I can't believe how much time has gone by. It just feels like not that long ago that we were on the set and having the time of our lives. You mentioned the soccer field. One memory that instantly comes to mind is that Ralph jumps on top of me and he punches me. He literally hit me with his forearm. So the punch is supposed to, of course, miss my face. But as his fist was going by my head, his forearm clipped me in the mouth, gave me a bloody lip, and we didn't stop. We just kept going. And then when the director said, cut, Ralph immediately ran over to me and he says, "Are you okay, man? I'm so sorry. I'm like, man, I've been hit harder than that, and I had a bloody mouth, but that jumps out. There's just so many memories that jump out. Doing the fence fight in the the skeleton costumes at like 3 or 4 in the morning in November in LA. It was cold, and I remember running across that field and just being winded and like, oh my God. And we had to do it like, I don't know, 10 times, jump that fence and run across that field. And, there's just, the memories go on and on, really. It was what can I say? It was a blast. It was as much fun as it looks like it might have been.
One more thing about that, I think it's funny that you often get misquoted. The "get him the body bag," right?
Yes.
Or maybe some of the other scenes.
Oh,
they think that you said it. It was a different actor.
Oh, it drives me crazy. I actually mention that in my book. I actually talk about how details matter. Names matter, and I talk about how Miyagi corrected Daniel several times on it's not a bonsai tree,
Right.
It's bonsai, and he corrected him until Daniel got baby tree, bonsai, and he finally said, no, bonsai. He wouldn't let Daniel off the hook because names really do matter. And so I get it. My real name is Ron. Rob Garrison is Rob. So there's the Rob and Ron thing. People still message me and call me Rob. But it irritates you because if you've been corrected once or twice, or if you're really paying attention, names matter. So then there's the Tommy, Bobby, Rob, Ron. And then we all had blonde hair, sort of this California look that they all wanted for the Cobra Kai. And I get how the mix-up can happen, but man, so yeah, I often get called out, hey, get him a body bag or whatever. I'm like, it'd be funnier if it was me. I didn't say the line, So, yes, there's that thing that's been a thorn in my side for all these years. Yeah.
I know you do some appearances at like some Comic Cons and celebrity cons. Is it you get to meet the fans face to face? And like I said, my sister Sonia and my nephew Jax, she was a kid of the 80s and 90s, so she got to really enjoy that, and now she gets to share it with her son. Is that important to you, and what does that mean to you that it's spanned generations?
Yeah, and I have a thing on my wall somewhere here in my office. What did I do with it? I moved my office stuff around, but I have a thing where we all got acknowledged in Los Angeles from the mayor about this iconic sort of generational film that was filmed in the Valley in Los Angeles, and it is like I said, there's not a lot of films that you can point to, like The Karate Kid, where it's had this sort of generational impact, where the original fans watched it and they grew up, had their own kids, and made their kids watch it. And then now, even those kids have grown up and they're making their kids watch it, especially with Cobra Kai. And I don't know how to put it into words about being a part of that sort of legacy. I used to do the Conan show at Universal Studios, Conan the Barbarian, live show. People come from all over the world. And it was corporate theater that was sort of athletic, like it was a really brutal show to do. I was using a lot of martial arts in the show. It was hard. It was a hard 20, 25 minutes of showing to do 4 or 5 times a day. And the cast members would start to complain, like, God, we're not getting paid enough for this. We're getting hurt. We're getting beat up. I got stitches the other day. I got hit with a sword, which I did. I got my finger blown open by a sword. But they used to complain. I used to say, guys, we are the only people in the world. We're the small group of people in the whole world that get to do this for a living, this particular show, and play these roles in the world. We're it. And it's sort of the same thing with Karate Kid. There's like just us. And a lot of us have, passed on, like Rob Garrison, or we've lost Chad McQueen this year. We've lost our director. We've lost our producer, but we are this small core of originals that started the whole thing. We're the only ones in the world who can say that, and that, if you think about that, that's powerful and it's meaningful and it's like, and it's surreal, and it can bring up the own inner questions, like how did I get to be that? How did I get to be a part of that small thing that's had such a huge impact? It's what can I say? I can't point to another movie that's done that. So it's been awesome.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of gratitude and humility there as well. And I'm sure all of those things are in the Hidden Life Lessons of Mr. Miyagi, an unbeatable guide to happiness, success, mastery beyond the dojo, available in paperback. Can we expect, because I'm an audiobook guy, I do a lot of traveling with my work. Is there going to be an audiobook for this?
Yeah, my publisher, we just released the book worldwide December 3rd. So you can get it everywhere. It's going to be in bookstores. If the bookstores have purchased it, like Barnes and Noble, it's there or it's coming there. You can get it from me on my website, a signed copy, senseironthomas.com. You can get signed photos and everything. But the plan will be to do an audiobook, but the publisher did not want to do it right away. They want to get the book, the hard copy out there. So it's available.
The Hidden Life Lessons of Mr. Miyagi, senseironthomas.com is where you can get the book and all the things that you're a part of, your speaking engagements and your appearances and everything. So that's where we need to go, right, to get all your information and even your socials as well. Yeah.
Instagram, it's all there on the website. So you can follow me on Facebook or Instagram and purchase, like I said, I've got photos from the Karate Kid. I got photos 11 by 14, 8 by 10s. I've got them from Cobra Kai. I've got the book, available to sign and ship out. I've shipped it out worldwide so far. So it's been good. And again, senseironthomas.com, and follow me. I like to post personal messages and also, of course, inspirational messages. I have my No Mercy Monday posts on Instagram every Monday. Try to put out something that I've been thinking about or somebody's asked me about, for just to help people set their week up, for success or inspiration. So yeah, follow me.
Do you mind if my sister and my nephew come on camera real quick and give you a wave, give you a hug?
No, come on in. Join the party.
They're big.
It looks like a party in that background. You got all these sports stuff. That's great.
There they are there. If you can give them a wave, Sonia and Jack.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
They're big fans. Ron Thomas, appreciate your time today. senseironthomas.com. And thanks so much for joining us today, man.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Have a good one.
You too.